After a trip to Mexico, it's time for RaceKraft V8 veterans to return to Austria for the Spielberg 200 kilometers of the Red Bull Ring. This is split 1 of 4 this season in RaceKraft V8 Vets, growing in numbers, growing in strength season on season, and this one has been another great season. We've got just 2 more races left to go here and the Saxon Ring, so it all sets us up for a championship finale. Red Bull Ring is a great fit for these cars. It's high average speeds, it's long time at full throttle, and it's some big braking zones. It should deliver some action. It's also going to deliver a tiny bit of weather by the looks of things. David Haynes here with Jake Sperry and Daniel Yeaman in the production as SimSpeed TV brings you RaceKraft V8 Vets. Hello, Jake.
Hello, David. And what a day we sit ourselves in with just a couple rounds left before the championship finds itself in full deciding factor. But today is going to be about 2 different factors in terms of this racing as we move ourselves down over towards the Spielberg track over in the Austrian Alps, or just outside of it there, as we find ourselves perfectly equidistant between Zagreb, Munich, and Vienna. It is a circuit that has pretty much captured the imagination of everyone. It's got that high-speed thrill ride with very heavy braking zones, and then of course that middle sector, you're going to have to hold on to your hats through turns 6 and 7 out there overall over to Graz turn there to make it work. But you're going to be looking out and saying, David, over the course of this run, who is going to make the big, bold moves? You can always attack at turn 1. You can always attack at turn 3. You can always attack at Rauk turn 4. And so overtaking will be the name of the game.
What was your favourite car assembled by Magnus Steyr in the town of Graz, and why is it the Saab 9.3 convertible? These facts
yes,
and more questions to be answered, but it is high speeds here. That's key to the Red Bull Ring. Turn 3. Turn 1, track limits could be a bit of a question, often is with the pit entry here as well, with 2 compulsory pit stops coming up. It's been a championship of turns and tussles. Sean McNamara started off in incredibly strong fashion, taking a couple of wins. He led the championship. Bit by bit, Jordan Ross brought it back. He now leads by the slender margin of 27 points. Both of them ahead of Scott Gamble, and then Wayne Walker started this season slowly. He's come on strong with a win or 2 since, and now sits just 111 points behind the championship lead. Top 10 completed by Jeff Thomas, Justin McLean, Dean Logsdale, Travis Hunt, Luke Allman, and Robert Crisdale. All to play for as well between 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th there, and it is tough to be in the top 10. It's tough to remain in the top 10 with such a strong field. Again, 4 splits in V8 Vets, and this is split 1. The margins from the top of the field through the mid-pack and to the tail of the field are very small. Mistakes are punished very significantly, and so to score big points consistently is a real challenge, and that's what some of these drivers are gonna have to do.
So I think that what's quite key about that is that one of the 2 drop rounds have provisionally counted here in this championship. After today, both of them will jump in and we'll get a true look at where everyone stands. But I think the key is the difference between the points. You can see here, it's 27 points difference between 1st and 13th out there. So there is a little bit of leeway at the moment for someone like Jordan Ross against Sean McNamara, but there are a lot of bonus points in offer here, David, with the pole position, of course, being 1. Fastest lap if you're in the top 10, 1. 0x incident race, it's going to be tough to get that one done today. That's a 3-point bonus. And then if you lead a lap, if you lead the most laps, and of course the easiest point in the world to ever score, David, join our Zoom call.
Yeah, exactly. So lots of little ways to pick up little extra bonus points as well as your results on track. So this is what's ahead of us. Just over 200 kilometers of the Red Bull Ring is going to be 47 laps. If you want to be a classified finisher, you've got to complete at least 36 laps. That's 75% of the race. There is a little bit of weather and some moisture about in the air. Rain is possible. It looks like the sun's out right now, and a tiny bit of water on the track is being cleared and is being dried up. We'll keep an eye on what tyres people elect to use, and then also keep an eye out the corner on the radar and see where the weather is moving and what it's doing. Might not play a massive role, but it's something to keep an eye on. An uncapped fuel tank means the critical lap number is very early in today's race, even with 2 compulsory pit stops. So that allows you some flexibility around where you make those stops, particularly if there's some weather or safety cars that make an early second stop very tempting.
But what I would say as well, though, here, David, is I wouldn't expect anybody to run today with 100% of a fuel tank. You have to have 2 very difficult runs in the race start to make that possible. So I'd be looking around at drivers saying, what do I want? I want to run the car as light as possible for as long as possible. So I think we'll see maybe 50% of a tank come into play, and then you're looking at maybe that extra pit stop that's needed a little bit later on. You can extend out the stints a bit longer if you want to, and if you're really desperate, a pit stop on lap 46 isn't out of the window either. But 200 kilometers worth of racing in a car that wants to fight you every single stage of the way. Lap times they're doing at the moment, it is a little bit of a shock who's up there at the top at the moment.
So this is all a little bit wordy here around the compulsory pit stop, but it's just about what you've got to do with that. Key is always, if there's a lap 1 safety car, then it delays the beginning of the compulsory pit stop window. Otherwise, it's pretty well free reign. You've got to do 2 stops. They've got to be in between lap 2 and the penultimate lap of the race. So who've we got?
Because of that,
Yeah,
and because of that, because they'd look at delaying it, it means that if you've gone out there and you've put, say, a slither of fuel in to start for your race, knowing you want to be really quick off the line and gain 4, 5, 6 places, jump in lap 2, you have to leave yourself room for lap 3 and making that stop. So you're sort of sitting down, I would say, David, going, what's going to be the best strategy for me to go out there to get any sort of ability to jump forward? I would turn around, look at today and say, when you got a rain-affected race, fuel limit is going to be a little bit less because you are not getting up to as high a top speed. So I would keep an eye out on the fuel because I think the burn's going to be a little bit lower than what we're expecting.
yes, possible. They've gone from qualifying into the warm-up and a bit of rain's come along, but then by the time we get into the race, I think it mostly clears up. Certainly something to keep an eye on, and let's see if we can keep an eye on our Zoom wall of drivers. Jake Sperry's easiest way to get 1 point, and therefore we usually get a few. Ray Smith in the top left there. Jonathan Gallen giving us an alternative high angle compared to one of the ones we've seen before. There's Travis Hunt, and immediately after him, his teammate Jeff Thomas. The 2 JWM drivers have been a fixture inside of the top 10 for a lot of races so far this season, and we'll see what we get out of them from the Red Bull ring. There's Sean Vandermeulen, Dean Logsdale Logger, one of the few drivers representing Jake Sperry's flag of the UK. Sean McNamara is not needing to warm up. If anything, he's sending a text message or two, checking the weather radar, swiping left or right. J-Mac pedal cam, and he's got shoes on, so that's the one that you can get for free. Christian Smart there, making sure he's getting ready, just sort of reaching to make sure the seat's in the right spot, arms comfortable, and a far shot of Greg Sharp by the looks of things, racing in VR.
J-Mac's got the right idea here, David. It just says that you've got to be on Zoom. They didn't say what part of you had to be on Zoom, if at all. So all you got to do is connect up your camera, and in my interpretation of the rules, it's a point. It's so simple.
Yeah, we've had some other sort of interesting ones. Sometimes you get people who've got the camera sort of attached to their headset or their helmet or something. We've had... Ray Smith's angle is actually quite similar to the one that Dan Stevens sometimes has, sort of looking over their shoulder. Travis Head sort of gave us pointing at his wheel and monitor previously, and now he's back to giving us a good look of his 1-to-1 scale Cam Waters cutout. Now, unfortunately, we weren't able to bring coverage of Mexico last week, so as we recap driver of the day, we got to look 2 weeks back to when they raced at Thruxton. And it was Mark Boynton who was driver of the day. Hashtag blame Dan, Jake.
Yeah, and so in that regard, you're trying to jump up the order and say, what can you do, as you are hashtag bin the blade for balling at this moment. And Mark Poynton going from a little bit further back in the field, having the way to jump up the order. Thruxton, the sort of circuit that actually holds similarities to this one here today. So this might be another good day for Mark to go out there and prove worth, because he's going to be looking at this as another circuit of a lot of high speed, and hold yourself as close as you possibly can out there to the edges of limit that you've got. So as I sit and watch it, I think Mark Poynton did a very good drive 2 weeks ago, and I think will also be sat down wanting a very good drive here today at the Red Bull Ring.
And Jake, I've just checked what's in stock at M1 Used Cars, Slacks Creek, Queensland. They got a good one for you. There's a 2016 Holden Commodore VF2 SV6 Ute, 24,990, only 80,000 Ks on the clock. That's a sport Ute in black for you. That'd make you stand out on the roads of the UK.
It would, and it would certainly make me stand out in the sense that I believe it would have left-hand drive rather than right-hand drive.
No, this is a right-hand drive vehicle.
Okay, no, that's all cool. And,
it's an Australian market car.
What you are realising here in the UK is that we are slowly starting to buy into the utification of everything, which, of course, you have pioneered as a country for many a year.
Well, I don't know if it had a different name, but you did get the Proton Jumbuck as well. I don't know what that was called in the UK.
Problem.
Yeah. It was available, and we'll see who can get M1 Used Cars Driver of the Day today. We go to the grid, and Wayne Walker, in a damp qualifying session, puts it on pole with 1:39, 0.4 of a second clearer than Sean McNamara. You often do get a little bit more field spread the more challenging the conditions become, and they were challenging for sure. Then Logan Barnett is third. Justin McLean is starting from fourth. Sean van der Meulen in fifth. The championship leader, Jordan Ross, is sixth on the grid on row 3. Mark Poynton, there he is, 7th after qualifying. Ken Latter, 8th. And normally, 1 second in qualifying would cover first down a sort of 30-something. But that's the difficult conditions we got at the Red Bull Ring today, causing a little bit more field spread. Just outside of that 1 second margin is Dean Logsdale in 9th, just ahead of Scott Mackay, who completes our top 10. In 11th, we find Chad Lewis and Damien Cairns in 12th. Lorne Mackay in 13th, John Latham in 14th. There's Michael Whiting in 15th and Greg Sharp in 16th. Racing in VR, we got him on the Zoom wall to check in with him at any exciting points in the race. Travis Hunt, 17th. Likewise, got an angle of him. Stephen Kennedy, 18th for M1 Racing. Then there's Dean Flavel, missing the Dino Dino from the Zoom wall. He'll start from 19th, but Christian Smart is on the Zoom wall. He completes that top 20, Jake.
He does, and so he'll be looking to go through. Over on row 11, you've got Wayne Sanderson and Halil Caesar, who is there for Infinity Motorsports, as then that 12th row of the grid, sees David Nash there of 801 and John Gallen for Pacific Esports, who will have a bit of work to do at 1.8. Worth noting that it did dry up a little bit at the end of qualifying, so the late times were better than the ones who set out earlier. So Brad Doble and Ray Smith find themselves on row 13 as the Blackheart Designs Infinity Motorsport machine works out from there. Following that, you've got Christopher Burridge then back in 27th position, with Gary Buckland then of the old Maton Sons there in 28th. Your top 30 will be rounded out by Dan Hall and Matthew Brunt for both the Evolution Racing team and Synergy Sim Racing, so a lot of heritage on that 15th row. 31st will belong to Andrew Rushworth with a 1:41.201. Jeff Thomas there in 32nd position. The last 2 times set were by Reese de Goey, who put in a 1:32.5 in practice, but a 1:42.2 in qualifying. So 10 seconds difference dry to rain, as he's got his SLS teammate of Brian Minogue back there in that position, leaving the rest of the drivers to be split by their iRating, which means that Paul Young will be going from 35th ahead of Darren Goosey. And so that will be the final field out there of 36 that will be looking to set itself up here from the Red Bull Ring.
Well, we were talking about track limits when we were looking at the track map. It becomes even more difficult to abide by those track limits in qualifying. When there's rain on the racetrack, it's very cold at 16 degrees Celsius. You almost never see the track temperature that low on a dry track. And there is the rainfall and track wetness. We'll keep an eye on it, no doubt. A bit of wind blowing the rain away by the looks of things. If the track starts like this for the race, you're starting on wet tyres, but you might go to slicks at some point. The weather is coming, as you can see as it animates, from the top left to the bottom right of screen, and there is a clear patch coming. Big field, lots of laps, 200 Ks of racing, track evolution I can see happening significantly across this.
Yeah, and so that evolution, I think, is going to be quite telling, because I'm just looking at the radar here in warm-up just as we come to an end. There is going to be the last of a patch of rain for what looks like about half an hour. It will depend how much we advance over into the race, but you can see right now, that's about as bad as it's going to be. Green band rain out there, which is category 2 rain out there, but the field will now get itself ready as the checker flag dropped. They will have 47 laps to complete this race and a maximum racing time, David, of 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Now, it would be, even in the rain and the wet, no trouble to get 200 Ks into that amount of time, but does it feel like the chance of a safety car is increased in this weather? Normally, I think of the walls as being pretty far away, everywhere except out of the final corner and on the front straight here.
I think that there is a chance to really maximize the circuit. I think you can be a little bit choice in where you use your off-track penalties around this circuit, but I would keep it well within the lines. I think the opening laps are very easy to pick up incidents. I think you can very easily find a 4, especially as it's narrow up into the Niki Lauda curve, turn number 1. I expect a bottleneck at about 8 rows back.
So drivers are going to the grid now, and as they do so, we get a look at what set of tyres go on. Briefly, it looked like Damian Cairns and Chad Lewis had slicks on, but I think they may have backed out and gone back to the grid with wet tyres. You look at that rather damp bull, and you say it certainly feels like wet tyres are the tyres to begin on. What we have at the end of this race with that break in the rain coming that looks like it could last 30-40 minutes. We'll keep an eye on that and see what tyres people go for. Wayne Walker there is on the pole position ahead of Sean McNamara. McNamara starting from 2nd, Ross starting from 6th. This could be critical to setting up the championship. Did you pack your poncho, Jake?
No, I'm actually getting quite soaked here, David.
Yeah. The problem is when it rains and it's hot, you put a plastic poncho on and suddenly you're a bucket of sweat underneath the poncho, as wet as if you hadn't put a plastic poncho on. That's maybe more of a Queensland problem than a British problem, but things to think about where a good umbrella comes in handy if there's not too much rain or lightning about. There's less than a minute till we get underway. The minute board's being displayed, and Barney's already got a very, very firm grip on the green flag. There's only a few drivers missing from the grid. So, who am I looking at there? Just behind Greg Sharp. Travis Hunt's on the grid. He's Dino we were waiting on. Dean Flavel's just hit the grid in the 19th spot. 36 cars on this grid. 20 seconds away from beginning that clock and getting 200 kilometers of racing underway. Track temperature still a cold 16 degrees Celsius on these supercars. Slick tyres on a dry track heat up really quickly. Wet tyres on a wet track do not give you instantaneous grip, and everyone will need to be aware of that on the run to turn 1, the run up the hill towards turn 3, and indeed the first couple of laps once we get going. countdown begins, revs rise, everyone on wet tyres at a wet Red Bull ring, and Wayne Walker is on the racing line side of the track as the green flag drops. Sean McNamara starting from second as they're more grip offline in the wet. He gets up and going, but it's a perfect build from Wayne Walker. Logan Barnett might even challenge for second place here. Massive dive from Justin McLean to the apex to try to take second place away as they all have to squeeze and condense, and someone spills out the side.
Yeah, and it was Greg Sharp who found himself around in the WKMP. Kenneth Latter as well caught out in it, so it looked like Latter first who got the tag and turned around. Scott Mackay ended up being the one who had the turnabout, and it really hurt the start of this race as they were trying to work forward. So now they're on the back foot heading into turn 3 out there, which used to be called Remus Corner out there, and this is what you have: a car with not much grip having to tiptoe in the early stages. And this is an incredibly hilly circuit, so it will pool and puddle a lot more than other circuits around the world.
The rain is gone, but the water is still pooled and puddled, and this track is slippery and cold, and so are the tyres for the moment. Wayne Walker, strong in qualifying, strong in his opening lap as well, leads by 1.5 seconds. McNamara got back into that second place after McLean's ambitious dive in turn 1. Barnett still sits back in 4th, but Jordan Ross has made a spot into 5th place. There are just 2 cars in between him and his main championship rival, McNamara, in 2nd.
It was important that he got by Van der Meulen on the start of the race, and now he can settle into his rhythm and work out where he wants to go with it. With Logan Barnett, with Justin McLean, with Sean McNamara there in 2nd position, you settle down and try and find your rhythm in the early goings of running, and that's what we're seeing here at this moment in time. Finding rhythm, finding opportunity, finding chances to go and make things happen, and drivers already pulling out then on the straight. That's not to try and angle and pivot to make a move, but it will legitimately be here along this straight right now, David, to just get some eyes out there on circuit to see a wiggle then goes for Sean Van der Meulen, and that'll be an easy one for Mark Poynton now to jump up and gain a place. He goes to 6th.
Yeah, Cam's also gaining some spots. Lorne McKee back there gaining some spots. It was about from there, sort of top 10 behind, but we had all that issues at turn 1, lap 1. A real car park going on. Poynton is going forward. There's McLean and Barnett now battling for the 3rd position as McNamara and Walker get further away, which is the grippy side of the racing track. You almost never know until you go into the corner. A bit of relocking for Barnett down the inside, then finds some grip on the outside, finds a little bit of the curb, which has no grip. McLean's back into 4th place. He might just have to wait unless he can find a magic line downhill.
And you got to remember, because this is a wet circuit, that the line that they've got at the moment, the normal line out there, is traditionally, David, a little bit more slick when you put rain on top of it. So it basically becomes a skid pan, and that's why you sometimes see that the karting line out there works a lot better in the rain than the traditional racing line. So keep a focus on that as they go, because there aren't guarantees that this race is going to be easy for everybody right now. And you can see how hard Logan Barnett is having to push through the corners, trying to hold with everything. Scott Mackay picking up a black flag.
Looks like race control are reviewing and acting on turn 1, lap 1. With no safety car, the compulsory pit stop window is open, and there's a bunch of drivers going for it early, looking to get clean air, looking to get out of the spray from the mid-pack, it seems. So Chad Lewis, John Latham, Brad Dover, and many others are coming in. So if you're out front with a good visibility, I think you'd stay out there. Latham overshoots his pit stall and by a bit, but that concrete's slippery too. But if you want to take a little bit more fuel on board, open up the strategy options, get into some cleaner air with more visibility, this is the way to do it.
Yeah, a whole hive of activity down in the pits, and some long stops being taken, well over 20 seconds then in the lane. They've got to be careful here that they don't find themselves on the wrong side of a lap if they're taking long service. So if they find themselves that it's too slippy out there for what they want to do, they drop the lap. If a safety car comes out, they're going to be on the wrong side of Lady Luck today, and they don't want to be in that. There's a bit of scrapping going on then as we watch Michael Whiting then having to fend off Travis Hunt, but through goes the move of Dean Logsdale then for the pass. 9.5 up to 7th, and a change between 9.5 cars out there as Sean Van der Meulen here had really good qualifying pace, but is struggling on the start of this race to get the tyres up to temp here in this race. Damien Cairns will try and look at. He kept up a massive amount of puddled water there through grass.
Yeah, still no rain since the beginning of this race, so it's just what was on the circuit that we started with. They're beginning to clear it. They're also beginning to get more tyre temperature. And so we'll see that fastest lap of the race tumble a couple of times, I'm sure. Will it tumble far enough to a dry tyre crossover during the course of this race? Is the question for me. I think that's got to be about a minute 37 or so. And what is the Dean Logsdale angle? Sean Vandermeulen, I know what I'm looking at there. But Dean Logsdale, I'm looking at his wheelbase and the back of his monitor, and when he steers right, you can almost see his hand.
Well, you can see a little bit of him. That's a point. So give him the point for that. He has shown the bare minimum out there.
I'll show you the finger if you want.
Well, I'm sure you would. He'll go for first if he tries to. But here's the side-by-side. And Law McKee down the inside of Sean van der Meulen. And that, again, is another place that is dropped after starting this one in fifth. -5, and not -5 by damage or instant. -5 on pure pace.
Still immense amounts of spray. Still cold air temperature is going to reduce how quickly this track can dry off. A couple more penalties coming in, and one of them, it looks like for Ray Smith, isn't from race control, but it's from iRacing, an unsafe pit entry. This is one of those tracks that enforces the pit entry line very, very strictly, as does VIR, as does another handful of other tracks on iRacing I'm sure you can name.
Yeah, puddle there on the inside. Has to be careful about it. And then as you hit the brakes, just a case of just speeding up through it by the looks of it. I forgot that I'm supposed to have a rev limiter on there, David.
You can't do 100 in an 80 zone and get away with it in the pit lane, so it's actually not the unsafe pit entry, it's the speed post-pit lane that's done Ray Smith in. David Nash, though, has a penalty from race control as they continue to work through, or walk through, or both, some of the incidents. There's a move to the inside from Travis Hunt, all over the curb at the apex, though. Means no drive and grip off the corner, and still none. But if he's got more than Sean Vandermeulen, he'll go ahead.
JWM Simsport will be pleased at this through the Munster corner, which translates to the money corner, turn number 2, and up the hill for the braking zone at turn 3. It means you can shut the car in a bit later on the brakes than you would do. And then this circuit is so mean, David, because you come up over this roller coaster straight and go in towards turn number 4, and then you've got to brake down the hill, so you've got to brake a lot earlier. It challenges everything. Changes going on then for third position by the looks of it. Logan Barnett's just taken a tap from Jordan Ross as they now run into turn 6, and this is going to be where Barnett here, the Kiwi, is going to be looking around. Jordan Ross holding that outside line. He's trying to lean on it, trying to get that run into the corner, but the outside doesn't work. But here comes the crossover with drive off the exit.
From left to right, gets his nose to the inside of the next sequence of corners. Jordan Ross is trying to go up through this field alongside Barnett for the moment, ahead of Barnett for the moment. Into the final 2 corners they go. A lot of curb and runoff here, but it looks like they're all trying to stay off it as best they can in the dry. Track limits from there are often taken at great liberty, but in the wet, it's enforcing itself very, very nicely. Jordan Ross goes forward into 4th. Lap times tumble all through the field again. Wayne Walker improves on his personal best. And Justin McLean doesn't set a new fastest lap though.
While it's not a new fastest lap, it is still all about the pace at the front that they deal with. And Travis Hunt in 9th position now is through on Damien Cairns, getting that done into turn 1. You can see he's a little bit chipper there at the moment as he works on through. He's going, yeah, I'm gaining places, and by every measure of metric, he is up 8 spots from 17th on the grid. And is this where I need to start talking about Paul Young's drive at the moment? Because we're only 6 laps into this race, and he is up 20 places in this one.
Sure is. BAR driver started 36th on the grid, one of the drivers with no qualifying time, so not a necessarily representative spot on the grid. He's moving forward. He's been in the top 10 a handful of times, and so in these conditions, he is bubbling to the top, it would seem. Track wetness has dropped from 67 to 50%. Still no rain, so this is a racetrack that is drying off. It's got to get from 50% to about 15 if anyone is going to think about changing tyre compound.
John Gallen has been dinged by the stewards in the 350, so he's going to have to come down to the lane at some point. You can see no real deviation of track temperature out there at the moment from the 16 degrees it is currently at. So it is a little bit nippy here today on a cold November afternoon here in the Red Bull Ring. Jordan Ross now with the fastest lap of the race, trying to stay with Justin McLean's pace right now, knowing he's not 2.5 seconds to Sean McNamara. But we focus still on this group going on, because you've got Halil Cesar in the middle right now, Christian Smart leading this little trade. You can argue that Dean Flavel is the leader of it, but he's just pulling away. So now it's about down the hill. Is there enough?
That's good traction. Side draft. The wet tyres have got a lot of rolling resistance, so that actually helps you pick up a little bit of toe if you can get to full throttle in these kind of conditions, which is the good side of the road to have. Big crown at the apex. So going round the outside, 3 wide, gets Ken Latta some of his spots back ahead of Halil Cesar, and Christian Smart was like, can I get another spot or two here? Didn't quite work, but that was fortunate that everyone didn't turn themselves around. Kenneth Latta back up in the 14th after losing a big chunk of spots at lap 1, turn 1. Jordan Ross sets a new fastest lap of the race, but I'm noticing, I think everyone's got the temperature into their tyres, but the track condition isn't moving that quickly. We've really hit a plateau at the 1 minute 41s for the moment.
And what you've got to remember is, yes, we've got drivers who are putting the laps in, and you've got 36 cars out there looking to put lap times on the board, looking to clear the track. It does go quicker than, say, if you've got 5 cars out there on track trying to clear the standing water that is there and available. That's why you see the rooster tails come off the back of the car, because it means that they are clearing the water, they're chucking it back up into the air, and they are trying to get rid of everything that they can. But the humidity is also going to play a key factor to this as well, on how quickly this track goes away, because it is an 83% humidity out there at the moment. So we focus then with Gary Buckland for a moment. Big kick and tail there from Christopher Burridge for a bit. So imagine, David, that you dip a sponge into a bucket of wet water, right, an already wet sponge. The sponge has 5/6 of it already full of water, and you're trying to get rid of more water in the bucket.
And this is why, if you put your hair under a shower before you go into a chlorinated pool, your hair absorbs less of the chlorine and you don't lose as much colour, Jake.
There we go. So a bit more of a case of the more you know, as Jordan Ross now trying to eye up a pass on Justin McLean, who goes slightly defensive there in through turn 6. Now looking to Gratz corner at turn 7. Jordan Ross is just very happy to take that wider entry into the corner, avoid the puddle there sitting on the inside. It will pull your tyres over to the left if you're not careful, because it will slow down the rate of rolling resistance that you got. But now, as Jordan Ross sits and waits, he will think, I could have Justin McLean, I could have this move any time I like. And again, McLean really seeing the tail kick out through the corners. The setup there is loose, and a little correction of Jordan Ross's own down the hill through the final corner. So you can see the level of what they're having to push to go and really get this race to sit up for them. Into turn number 1, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lunge down the hill over at turn 3.
Yeah, Jordan Ross still owns the fastest lap of the race, but passing is more challenging. I agree with your assessment that there is less spray coming off the cars most of the time, but still quite a fair bit. Clean breaks the middle of the road. Jordan Ross sends it big and wide around the outside. He can then straighten up the car to try to get to throttle earlier, but not quite as much as he would like. It's beginning to cost him time battling here with McLean, and Walker and McNamara are getting away. There's a lapped car or two in between as well. Again, you take a big pit stop. It happens very, very easily here around a short lap. You try to find me an open bit of racetrack, and I've got a bullet to sell you.
If you want to try and make moves, you're going to have to try and do it while the sun is shining, because we're at a stage here in this race where we are not too far away from the next pivot point of rain. It will be a light flurry of rain coming through in about the next 5 to 10 minutes, and it is only expected to be category 1 rain, band 1 rain, light blue, and it won't be for that long. So keep that in mind as they're looking to set themselves up in this race. They will have a tiny little shower, but it's what's on the horizon after that, that category 2 rain, that is going to make the difference.
I would say if you go to slicks and the track looks like it, expect to need to potentially go back before the end of this, but we are ticking off the laps quickly. Your leader's begun lap 10 of 47, 41.2. Sean McNamara 2/10 slower than that, and then a little bit slower than that even behind here, but Jordan Ross has got more pace if he can get unleashed, and off of turn 1 he can get alongside, and this time to the inside of Justin McLean at the top of the hill. Bit of rear locking from McLean as he tries to go around the outside, and then he gets pretty good traction from there. So to the left, to the right, Jordan Ross can't get by.
Yeah, and if you're struggling to get by a driver, you're going to need them to pick up the pace. And with Sean McNamara over the course of that last lap, managing a 41.4, they dropped 2/10 on that last lap. So they're not going as quick as Jordan Ross wants, and I think he feels a bit bogged down and a bit frustrated here. And if they continue to feel like that, then the chances are going to arrive a little later on. I am starting to see a bit of a dry line forming though here, and so you're seeing how everyone's pushing in a shower of gravel from the car in front. That's
rally
David
cross
Nash.
line arrive. Yeah, that's not a dry line, that's the rally cross line.
Yeah, especially going through 5 to 6, you see the gravel there that's kicked up. It definitely does create a different line out there, but Ross, you can see 4/10 down on your leader in sector 2 after gaining 3/10 in the opening sector. So that indicates a little bit of a setup difference out there, that Jordan Ross has got a little bit more leg in the straight line.
So this is 3rd, 4th, 5th battling down the front straight, and you see how Logan Barnett's been able to be party to this as they battle. He's also got pace to stick with McLean and Ross. Boynton back in 6th. There's a chance he gets a tiny bit closer, not quite. And then the top 10 completed by Logsdale, McKee, Travis Hunt and Damien Cairns. So Jordan Ross is going to look to the inside again, to back onto the racing line, in need of a mistake and some serious wheel spin from Justin McLean that's just not arriving. The next 2 cars up the road are a lap down.
I'm of course reminded it is a fixed setup, but I think my point still stands in the sense that it's the quicker sectors where there's more straight line, that Jordan Ross has more confidence out there, David, to stamp his foot on the floor.
And in the words of Demi Lovato, what's wrong with being confident? McLean's defending to the inside more and more. There's that dull racing line, particularly in the places where there is only one line. Through here and these corners, you're seeing a couple of different lines in play. Jordan Ross, for example, going wider, tucking back to a tighter exit, and then staying a little bit tighter to the following right hand. The exit of turn 4, it's just the one line, and making a really dry line there that doesn't have much spray. Now a couple of stabs at the brake pedal, make it rotate, and then try to make it not rotate with your right foot on the exit. More curb jumped from Jordan Ross. Pitches him into a little bit of a slide. It's tougher to recover from when there's less grip. And the highest running car that's made a pit stop is Chad Lewis in 27th. Your top 26 haven't made either of their CPSs yet. Scott McLean in 25th has served a drive-through penalty, which is not actually that costly here, with the 80km/h lane speed limit and getting to shortcut a bit on the final corner. There are worse drive-throughs. There are better ones, like Thruxton.
John Gallen then picks up another penalty, and I think he's picked it from iRacing for crossing the white line before the blue commitment cone. And the reason he did that was he had a massive slide, so he'll have to come in for another penalty out there. Sean Vandermeulen and Dean Favel now making their calls for lane.
Making their way through the lap traffic best they can. Blue flags in effect. John Gallen lets McLean, Ross and now Barnett go. This is a look at John Gallen. He's got that black flag on him at the moment, having served a drive-through penalty and a pit stop. Now going to have to do another one. So that is a frowny face for the moment.
And while it is a frowny face, it is one where you are starting to wonder whether John Gallen can get anything out of this one. He's down in 35th, right down at the back, only Ray Smith behind, and now it's going to be even worse because he's going to have to jump back in the pit again and attempt that pit exit
Jordan
again.
Ross is in.
Now in comes Jordan Ross to make his pit stop, and that's big because that is the sense of what are the leaders going to do diving down into the pits. This will be an undercut attempt as Wayne Walker sets the fastest lap of the race. He might as well be the Rain Walker, the way he's driven the way at the front of this field right now. 2.9 to the good.
Well, Jordan Ross was caught up in that traffic behind Justin McLean, unable to make the pass. So then he's come in to make his pit stop. But unlike on a dry track on slicks, it takes a long time to get temperature back into a new set of wet tyres. Unless your rival stays out 5-6 laps, you're not really going to undercut them. And what it does is it goes and puts him into a bit more traffic. So Jordan Ross is 16th. He's got Jeff Thomas and Stephen Kennedy battling for position in front of him. They owe him absolutely nothing. We'll see if he lights up those tyres, if he in fact even took new wet tyres.
That's the thing as well, because this track isn't necessarily here, David, getting any wetter out there as they're just now dealing with a tiny patch of rain as Jordan Ross overshoots into Rauch. Oh, he's going to get a tag there with the likes of Jeff Thomas, who decides, I'm going to take that back, but here comes the launch back down the inside to get the clearance sorted, and Jordan Ross manages it. You're looking around as all the leaders come in. You might want to actually stay on the same set of tyres because one, they'll be warm, you've got the temperature in them. Two, it will act as a semi-slick.
Well, the strategy begins to play out, and Ross has basically pitted one lap early, and everyone else now follows in. Looks like Damien Cairns maybe stays out, but everyone else from that top three comes in. So if it's new tyres and cold tyres, Jordan Ross will now have a tiny bit more temperature in his, and he could battle on the outlap for everyone else. Wayne Walker takes on board 26 seconds of fuel. Ross only took 23. McNamara takes 26. Barnett's taken 26. And McLean has taken 27. So I think with a slightly shorter fuel, Jordan Ross might get a couple of those spots. There he is at speed. There's McNamara, who was second before the pit stop phase. And that is our championship battle on track together now.
So McNamara is going to have to get up to pace and up to pace quickly here with the times that are needed. So we'll be looking at that saying, well, I've got the advantage at the final stop. But Jordan Ross now needs to build a buffer. And so he gets good drive out of turn 3. McLean has been dropped back to Logan Barnett. So that is going to change the complexity out there on this. Instead of it looking like it's 3 and 1, it's now a case of 2s and 2s.
The pit stops coming through. They all started with just 50 litres. In the rain, maybe that'll take you a little bit further than this, but we're not far away from everyone being required to take their first stop. Damien Cairns is going to be a lap leader. So is Ken Latter, who's gone long. Michael Whiting and Paul Young the next behind. And here's Cairns into the pit lane. Jeff Thomas, Brian Minot, Gary Buckland and Greg Sharp yet to stop. But almost all of them, I reckon, are going to come in this lap, and Wayne Walker will go back to the lead of the race. Jordan Ross in second, Sean McNamara in third.
And so they all make their way into the pits, looking for those boxes. They make that decision, a little think about it away, the different chance. Kenneth Latter now, who made that early pit stop, remember, or now is looking around thinking, what can I do, in the stops. They now bring back Wayne Walker into the race lead. Sorry, so there's the gap of 2 seconds to Jordan Ross. Sean McNamara trying to stay with it at this stage of the race, but we are keeping our eyes out on how long these stops are, and they are still keeping themselves very honest with what they need. Damien Cairns has only just left the pits, so we focus then on board with McNamara, and I think that Cairns is going to come out just behind Travis Hunt and just ahead of the car of Brad Doble.
So now that we've had one pit stop for everyone, there's a couple of drivers that look like they've jumped a couple of positions. Like you said, Brad Doble, short stop that he took very early in this race. Dan Hall also with a very early stop, presumably found clean air. Now he's up 16 positions. As you can see, graphic bottom right corner, Paul Young from no qualifying is the most spots gained, and here is Dan Hall ahead of quite a gaggle, so that's good for him, having already made a stop.
Yeah, he's done well. Doble up 14, Reese DeGoey up 30 spaces in this race, so this is a day for those to gain out there at the moment. There is Doble in the Shadow Racing car, having to catch a slide there slightly, moving in through turn 6 over towards Graz at 7, proving how tough the corner can be for the Shadow Racing car. And so knowing that Damien Cairns is fresh out to the pits, that gives you a sense of, I want to hunt, I want to chase. And fastest laps now in on the books, so 140.8 from Wayne Walker at circuit. It is slowly starting to get itself back into range again. Very good for the average lap times. They're trying to really work through this phase of the race and saying, look, this is the pace level that we've got. There is Reese DeGoey for SLS Racing, who is looking at this going, yeah, not a bad day at the moment in 20th. Chad Lewis now trying to hold off, his position in the Evolution Racing Team 727. 9.5 want to go and get to 7.
Starting to think we're not going to see any slick tyres across this 200 kilometres because everyone by fuel has had to make their first stop just maybe 5 laps before the track was going to be dry enough for slicks. And then I think we're going to get rain again just before the end. So the only way you go to slick tyres is if you commit to making 3 stops in a 2 compulsory pit stop race, even with a quick pit lane. You probably would try to avoid that. Seeing what's a really dry line forming in a couple of these places. Stand by, sort of 5 laps away from slick tyres could work, but there is heavier rain. What we're now estimating is about 35 to 40 minutes away, which is about when you'd want to be making the second compulsory stop. Anyway, slick's feeling unlikely, but we are going to get a phase now in the next 10 laps of them really starting to overheat these wet tyres, and who can look after them. What a la Nigel Mansell might be in a good spot.
Very much could do, and we are in the realm now of this track getting quicker and quicker and quicker. And you're seeing here that everyone's still on the wet tyre because they're looking at that radar there on the right-hand side. They do have a period of about 15-20 minutes that it's going to be all right, but after that, the heavens are going to open and you are going to be seeing those times crash back down to reality as again Lewis happy then with the angle that is there. Dean Logsdale is trying to figure out where the pass can be found down the hill once again, so chasing down that hill to gain any sort of advantage. You can see we're in a little bit of a sunny period before it turns over to rain, but again going to outside doesn't quite get the move done, but you are doing the right things out there in terms of Dean trying to make this move. He's getting wide in the mirrors, he's trying to look everywhere he can for a little bit of placement to get that pass, hoping that there's going to be a missed braking zone of about 5 meters or so that says, look, I'm just going to go sneak my way up the inside and nobody's going to do a thing about it.
Pole was a 39 flat on wet tyres, so I think the track's got to become quicker than that on wet tyres before anyone can make a change. Jordan Ross is up in the second position, but last lap, Sean McNamara was quicker than him. We'll see again at the end of this. And if McNamara can stay close, that could be advantage to him. He took 3 seconds more of fuel than Jordan Ross, who had a really quick pit stop, gained this track position, but is going to need to pay it back somewhere, somehow, sometime. and react with a new personal best of the race and a new fastest lap of the race does Jordan Ross. They're 2.7 seconds away from Wayne Walker, the race leader, just a tiny bit quicker than him. Are they looking for wet parts of the racetrack now?
Not at the moment. I think they'll look at the tyre temperatures. They'll be happy with them at the moment. They might be getting slightly over the top. But I think that the moment that you start looking for water is the moment that you hit the crossover. The fact that they're not indicates to me that there's still enough standing water out there that they don't have to be too concerned with where they ally themselves at the moment. I think they're all right. We normally talk about a track that needs to reach a status of being very lightly wet for it to be out there and in the crossover period. We're currently at a track which is deemed lightly wet.
So it's just only got to become very more lightly wet, less lightly wet, something like that. Everyone with one stop made, but with the uncapped fuel tank size, you could stop now and get to the end. You'll be asking a lot of your tyres, the weather, and of your track position. Now, it's possible that Scott Mackay has done that down in 28th place. This first one was a penalty and not a compulsory pit stop. Okay.
So he would have got a penalty lap 1. So as we have to stress out there in a race like this, as Jordan Ross again sets the fastest lap, and it looks like we are seeing a little bit of changing around with Chad Lewis now and Dean Logsdale. They're really going at it, and Logsdale through on Chad Lewis, getting the pass done through the final couple of corners. There, Jochen Rindt being done. Here comes the dive from Travis Hunt now to the inside, takes the apex away and says, that's my position. Chad Lewis now down to 9th. You've got to remember that compulsory pit stops out there only count for stops that you are making for fuel and tyres and not for penalties.
So Logsdale and Hunt go ahead of Chad Lewis, whose wet tyres are beginning to fall away, having stopped at the end of lap 2. We've seen Travis Hunt look for wetter parts of the racetrack, but he's also looking for RaceKraft into battle wheel to wheel here. Back down the inside goes Chad Lewis. Travis Hunt just waits, tries to get his nose back underneath on the exit. Falling again.
Yep, so he's trying to find a way. John Gallen, for what will be his 85th pit stop in a 19-lap race, will now look to try and get his race back on track. But you can see how Travis Hunt is trying to do anything possible here to keep that pace up. And he's done well. He's going to pick up the pocket here of Chad, who tries to shuffle him off the line. Justin McLean breaks the 40 barrier out there, but the pass is made, but it's a bit deep into the corner by Travis Hunt. Now they're going to scrap here and go side by side through. You're going to have to leave room on this exit and lean, but Travis Hunt's just going to get enough drive. What a great scrap between them.
Off the dry racing line and looking to the inside, Chad Lewis won't give up. Travis Hunt knows he's got fresher tyres, but he's having to use them all over the place. Now exiting turn 1, a slightly better run, but it's a long run uphill. We're seeing the slipstream begin to work again, and how confident Chad Lewis is in looking for the inside line. He was so good on the brakes in turn 4 last lap as well. He's almost driven himself off the road there, and I think Travis Hunt almost just begin to claim dibs on this one.
Grass will be waterlogged as you go across it, and if you think you can brake or accelerate on grass in normal times, you can't. Out there in the conditions that they've got today, you will just go spinning. So that's a very scary moment for how far across Chad Lewis was prepared to go in a race like this one. So you're really sensing now what the mood and motive is of this one. They're still not yet at halfway in this race, but you are really looking about and thinking there is going to be places to be had. And they've got to remember, Dean Logsdale has jumped down the road already to the tune of 2 seconds. So they really have lost quite a bit of time here as Wayne Walker sets the fastest lap of the race again. This time a 39.5 because it's beaten out by Logan Barnett.
Yeah, it's stumbling. We're now almost quicker than what the pole time was. And quick lap in the dry, I thought was about 1:30. So 6 or 7 seconds away from a dry lap time could be getting close to crossover. But there's rain coming. As I've seen it approach on the radar, it's actually getting lighter as it approaches. This is a real strategy race. It's that what was some green rain has become light blue, or in Jake Sperry terms, category 1. I'd say it's gone from category 2 to about category 1.8.
I think what's telling about it, though, here, David, is it's the first patch. That second patch has not yielded. Oh! And we got one around. That's Reese DeGoey, who is down in a really sticky situation, trying to get back going onto the racing line out of the final corner. So easily done around there.
We saw how wet the curbs were in those final couple of corners, and if he was battling with someone, or even just by himself and in a little bit hot with a little bit of rear locking, you can imagine how that could happen in a very compromised position in the final corner for Reese DeGoey. So he's on the curb turning into the final corner. Lots of understeer at the apex, beyond the red and white curb into the green concrete, and then just grabs the brake. Downhauls often through the gravel, as we saw Justin McLean and Logan Barnett battling earlier. So those drivers have taken some of the fastest laps of the race until they get crushed again by Wayne Walker. This track evolution is so rapid right now. The lap times are dropping half a second every successive lap.
It means that this race is getting quicker and quicker, and drivers now are going to have to try experimenting. How much earlier am I now on the brakes compared to where I was? Do I have more confidence now to chuck it into these corners? And Logan Barnett is someone with an abundance of confidence right now compared to Justin McLean, tiptoeing through turn 3 and back up over the rise once again. Barnett can't get the drive off the exit in comparison to Justin McLean. That confidence out of turn 3 sets the entire lap up.
Onboard is always so fun to watch in difficult conditions like this, no matter the category of the racetrack. When you see the drivers having to make large, sudden, corrective inputs, dancing on the limit of grip, that's where you really feel what's going on, rather than when it's purely planted in commitment. See what the drivers feel. So, Marco Andretti on slick tyres at Belle Isle is an amazing video to watch in one of those races. Barnett saw just leaning the car with a lot of slip and slide angle, making a lot of little moves on the steering wheel to try to get the front initially coaxed into the corner, but then to try to manage oversteer in later parts of a lap. That looked like McLean a tiny bit wide. There's still a gigantic puddle there as Logan Barnett also hits it. Wayne Walker goes and shaves more time off his best of the race. No one else matches it though. Certainly not these two, the way that they've been battling. Not Ross McNamara, curiously either.
Goey is in the pits and I spied a dry tyre.
Is there a bit of irony to looping it around on the wet part of the track and then going, do you know what I need? Slick tyres? But this could work. It's going to be challenging out of pit lane.
No, it can't. Not like that. You've got to get onto the dry line, and so when you're leaving the pit exit, it is the wettest part of the circuit, David, so your tyres instantly cool off and become ice.
And what's already a cold track temperature of 15 degrees Celsius. There's drivers with hot tyres behind him. Well, just stay on the dry line and make them pass you somewhere else, Reese, unless you're a lap down.
Kent in the back takes a tap there off of Brad Doble as they were scrapping, and Lord McKee takes an easy one, and Ken's over the radio immediately requesting race control to look at it.
Wind back the tape on that one. Battling for the fringes of the top 10 here, I believe, is what they were doing. They were battling for 10th. So Doble's around the outside on the grippy side of the racetrack. Down the inside is Damien Cairns. Looks to do pretty well there. And then, okay, just a little bit of contact there. Doble doesn't move across a whole lot, but he is an eighth of a car width to the inside of the curb, and they meet on the exit.
No, there's no foul in that for me. That's just a racing incident. They're fighting for the same piece of real estate in Damien Cairns. Unfortunately, it's sort of like watching 15-year-olds go and play rugby, and suddenly there's that kid who turns around, who's playing number one, as Degoe goes around and slides and just about avoids contact with everyone else. It's like watching that kid, David, who's about 150 pounds heavier than someone else, and going, right, I'm just going to bounce you off of me as you try and tackle.
Always that one kid who had their growth spurt first and is a real menace in junior sport. We've got a couple of other cars that have gone to slick tyres, though. Greg Sharp has done it. Brad Doble is in the pit lane right now, and I don't know what he's doing just yet. So, if Degoe can't make it work, can Greg Sharp, can anyone else? And is that rain 10 minutes away, or 15 minutes away, or 3 minutes away?
I think it's 3 minutes away.
I think they're committed to a 3-stop for Sharp and Degoe, regardless. Walker sets a new fastest lap of the race, so this is the fastest the track's ever been, but is it about to be a turning point moment?
Well, Damien Cairns has got play on by race control, so he's going to get nothing but a couple drivers trying to make something work. But yeah, you are going to have to come into the pits again. You are going to have to make the stop. In comes Darren Goosey then to go and make that decision, as Sean McNamara now sets the fastest lap of the race on a 38.7, and they're stuck at 4 seconds off the race lead. Justin McLean getting quicker than that as well. I think this is all down to when that final stop comes in. Bye-bye, Greg.
Wide through the penultimate corner, and once you're out of the groove, there's absolutely nothing that's going to save you. He was ice skating downhill to the runoff of the final corner. If you're in the groove, it could maybe work. He was out of the groove. It didn't work. This is that battle for second and third as a tiny bit of rain begins to spit in a few corners of the racetrack. We saw Sean McNamara pick up the pace. We've seen Justin McLean pick up the pace. It's all condensing around second and third just here. Wayne Walker's got almost a 5-second lead. Looks like it's turn 3 where the rain is going to come to first.
Yeah, and so when it hits at a certain part of the circuit, you're not going to feel it in other areas, but the next time you go by, you'll start feeling the rain around the circuit a lot more intensely. So anyone who's gone onto a dry tyre and seen the heavens open are going to go, oh, well, that worked, as they try and figure it out. But Jordan Ross and Sean McNamara has done everything he's needed to do here today. He is scouting Jordan Ross, and speaking of which, Paul Young, this for a top 10 from the back of the grid, gets the move done and dusted on Lorne McKee. So an easy pass that makes itself sorted, you have to say. Paul Young is certainly ringing alarm bells for me for driver of the day.
I've got a rule that if you fail to qualify and then race back to where you should have been anyway, it doesn't feel driver of the day-ish to me. But this is an amazing drive in these tough conditions, and it was the tough conditions in qualifying that led to a few drivers, I suspect, not having their qualifying times. Now, of course, we're within the window to fuel up and go to the end, so as a little bit more rain begins to fall, a few people see those sprinkles on their windshield and go, might be about time for a new set of wet tyres. I could put them on, heat them up, and then the heavy rain would come down on me.
Yeah, so you definitely got that sense of making the tyres work. But I just want to go back to your point then, David, because it's not just a case of, oh, you've got the pace to be top 10, and so you should have qualified the car in 10. It's, you've got the pace to be top 10, but you've still got to avoid all the troubles of the opening phase of the race. You've still got to make all those passes. You've still got to have the car control and wherewithal to get there. You know, if you do it every race, I understand. If you don't, that is a driver of the day style performance that we're seeing as Van der Meulen here and Damien Cairns close themselves up. Two drivers who have not had as good a race as they have maybe necessarily wanted.
It's driver of the day, not driver of the race, and qualifying is part of the day.
True.
Just,
but then again,
I'm being
you're not
obtuse
judged on how you
intentionally, but
qualify, you're judged on how you race.
you're judged on the day.
Yeah, but you don't get points for qualifying, you get points in the race.
You qualify.
True.
So no one jumping into the pit lane for that second stop just yet. It is just a light sprinkle of rain on about half of the racetrack. Greg Sharp has kind of got his slicks going where he's doing minute 40s, but that's not a gigantic undercut. Sean Van der Meulen comes in, and Reese de Goey struggled to stay on the racetrack to set a lap time at all. Dan Goose is just getting his slick tyres going. That's the only three drivers not on the wet tyres. And that looks like Sharp is just having to let some people go as he's being lapped, unfortunately. But he's able to stay on the dry line, which is what he needs so desperately right now.
I'll tell you what is scary. I've just taken a look at the radar, and after the Category 2 rain, and I don't see it very often here in iRacing, David, there is Category 3 rain on the horizon.
So a chance that we get a minute where the rain subsides, but once it returns, don't see it stopping, don't see it getting much lighter. Still 30 to 35 minutes, perhaps a little more left of this race with 20 laps in. Jordan Ross pits from second place. Wayne Walker continues on. Sean McNamara continues on and back into the second place. We know that Jordan Ross stopped early the first time, didn't take as much fuel as some others. This might be the end of Jordan Ross's fuel window, brings him into the pit lane to make his second compulsory stop. And then he is going to need to drive like mad to undercut McNamara and to even undercut Wayne Walker to try to protect his championship lead.
Well, this is where a mark of a driver is found when they've not got the outright pace to go and win a race. It's about how they best recover through a scenario like this one, and I think this is where Jordan Ross is going to need some very good laps as we focus on this big pack of cars with Latta, McKee, you've got Greg Sharp who's laps down in it, Paul Young trying to get by Chad Lewis, and bye-bye over to the right, there goes Lord McKee.
Got the wet curb on the exit, and there comes Jordan Ross out of the pit lane. He's slipping, sliding, and squirreling around on his new cold set of wet tyres. 30 seconds of fuel went in for a cumulative pit stop time of about 56 seconds. That's about how much fuel we expect he might have needed. It was a little long. Well,
might be a bit of a buffer out there just to make sure that the numbers can work on the exit if he's having to really jam the throttle down in various sections. So it might have even been that he was out there and he's had to be very, very choice in that first pit stop and maybe even underfueled the car even slightly, because yes, you do have a limit of 50 litres at the start, but you can go under that to get a little bit of an advantage and then fill up even more than that. So that's a maximum limit of 50 litres at the start of the race. So that will be where you try and navigate back as we focus on to two battles going on. You've got Young and Lewis, and then the lap traffic then dealt with by Kenneth Latta. Little think from Paul, trying to get this done and still can't quite manage it.
No, not just yet. He's stuck behind. That was Greg Sharp going for pit lane, and he's probably going to go back to a set of wet tyres. His third pit stop of the race now underway. Chadwell's driving the trial line. Better braking performance. Paul Young can't get down the inside, but then as Lewis runs wide, he touches the outside of the curb and bit Lorne Mackay. Paul Young gets to the right-hand side. Going to be the inside at the top of the hill at turn 3. He's going to get to 7th place if he can pull this up.
And he does, and he comfortably does. And so 7th is there now for Paul Young, as we do note that a pit stop has taken place for
McLean.
Justin McLean. So
and he's come out ahead of Jordan Ross. 5 seconds quicker stop.
Yeah, and he has, and that's critical. So Jordan Ross realises now that he is 5th place at the moment, net on the road.
But there's also the overcut factor with regards to the tyre temperature. So this outlap for McLean, he's got to be so careful, and a lot of that time evaporates in the very first braking zone that we see. Jordan Ross has got a tiny bit more temperature, a tiny bit more confidence. He didn't have it a lap ago, and that's where McLean overcut him. Now the tyre offset in temperature, McLean sliding around, Jordan Ross makes it look easy. Wayne Walker stays out, and Sean McNamara pits, Logan Barnett pits. So we're seeing the second round of pit stops play out among those drivers in the top 5. Still no confidence from McLean.
Mark Boynton also comes in, so we'll go to Dean Logsdale, who will have the decision of stick or twist, and he will twist out there and decide that he is going to go up into second position with Wayne Walker, your leader in this field now by half a minute because of the stop. So McNamara will be looking at leaving pit lane here and being happy with where he returns. He's coming up to speed now and going into turn number 1. Jordan Ross is going to be a little bit too far behind here, and Sean McNamara has got the gap. Look behind, Logan Barnett. Oh, he's tagged the wall. Logan Barnett's tagged the wall on pit exit.
Wonder how much damage he's done. Doesn't look like he's got a black flag for it, but just a tough thing to do. And you saw problems with opening the throttle for Sean McNamara, and then he was wiggling down the straight trying to get that temperature in that Jordan Ross has got to try to fight him. His Barnett struggling versus a potentially lapped car that's got a little bit more tyre temperature. That first lap on a new set of wet tyres, they just don't react, they don't bite, and it's so difficult, but eventually they give you more grip. Here's McNamara with his.
Just hearing Wayne Sanderson on the radio, not best pleased. He's down in pit lane, and so I think he's had a bit of a moment somewhere on circuit that has put him in the gravel.
There's a lot of gravel just there at Graz. Looking backwards from McNamara, Jordan Ross with 2 laps more tyre temperature. That blue Synergy Sim Racing Falcon is getting way closer in every braking zone, corner, and traction zone. Through the final corners, McNamara is so careful. He doesn't want to ride those wet curbs too much. Even with a dry racing line, the curbs are very, very slippery. Giant puddle right there. McNamara needs to take a big, deep breath. Wayne Walker comes out of pit lane. Looks like he's still got a nice little margin over McNamara and Ross.
That was a case of wakey, Sean, as he was going along the front stretch there, realising Jordan Ross is still behind, Reese to go, he just in front, Kenneth Latich on Gallen. Then it's Wayne Walker, and it's worth noting that because Dean Logsdale has stayed out here, picks on lap 13, you certainly know what he's trying to do here by going out this long, David. Even if it does cost him a bit, there's a point for leading a lap.
Staying out of the way of our leaders as best as possible. And soon Wayne Walker is going to become our race leader. He took 25 seconds of fuel after taking about 30 at his first stop. So I'm still seeing everyone's total pit stop times across both stops is pretty close to 55. Walker's got that sort of 3.5 seconds, maybe a little bit more. I thought almost 10 seconds compared to McNamara and Ross to get that tyre temperature up. In front of him, someone's been through the gravel and is dragging it back in front of Wayne's face.
Oh, so they're going to ding Jeff Thomas, and it will be a pit lane penalty. So what has happened there for the 43? I think it would have been with the 045 out there is what I was hearing over radio. So some clear issues then that have led to that as they've gone through. So we'll take a look. This is Wayne Sanderson, and he's on the brakes.
Later. So he had an issue earlier where he ended up in the gravel. This isn't it this time, I don't think. So this is like a lap later, just as he was in front of Wayne Walker, and then he dragged some gravel back on as he's on cold tyres here, by the way, as well, so no front grip.
So lap 30 is where we think this has all gone wrong. Shoots it into the corner, goes a little deep, And so something obviously has befallen Wayne in the form of Jeff Thomas out there. And there's not much that can be said about it, except that the incident has happened and the stewards have looked at it. So now trying to tiptoe again back, trying to step out every single stage of the way, can't get the pace up. And then this is just leaving pits, and I don't think the incident would have happened leaving pits. It would have had to have been before, because he called the race control in the pit lane as Reese to go, he gets a penalty.
We can't find it, but looks like, tell me Jeff Thomas hasn't gone to slick tyres. Everyone else who went to slicks has gone back to wet. So Greg Sharp, Darren Goosey and Reese DeGoey have all gone back to the wet tyres. There's no rain now, but Category 2 is coming. Jeff Thomas might have gone to slicks. Dean Logsdale is going to come in, so he still had a stop to make. Ken Latter's in. Logsdale and Latter were both really trying to push this middle window of the race to their final stop. So Wayne Walker back to the lead of the race. Sean McNamara back to second. Jordan Ross in third.
I think we've found what's happened here with Jeff Thomas. So this is him right now, out on slick tyres, trying to work around on circuit. So the question's going to be where that has all fallen, but at least for the time being, as far as this race is concerned, the gaps are looking pretty sizable right now. It's 8 seconds for Wayne Walker, McNamara in second, having to hold back both the championship leader Jordan Ross and Justin McLean, who's going to want to try and get himself through with the fastest lap of the race.
No rain falling now. More coming. We're back to some of the fastest laps of the race again in the sort of minute 38s. Almost teetering on the edge of that dry tyre crossover, but it just refuses to stay dry for long enough for it to be a valid strategy. Wayne Walker getting the temperature into his tyres has had his lead drop down to about 7.7 seconds there to Sean McNamara, who's built up some temperature. Jordan Ross not able to close in McNamara before some of the best of his tyres went away, but he could be saving them for later on and for when that rain comes. And Justin McLean is looking very aggressive now as well. So second, third, fourth, and that lost a fair bit of time to McLean somewhere around that second pit stop. Logan Barnett still occupies fifth.
Keeping up that pace. I know there's a little bit of sunshine at the moment on the horizon, but it's not going to last for long, because that Category 2 band of rain is arriving there, right down into the spray and puddlage that is there on the inside of the Munster corner, really trying to work. There is McLean to the rear to say, look, I can go through, I can gain this place, this is my opportunity to go and make this happen. But again, stepping out of line, just doesn't have enough of a run to make it happen, and now is going to try and send it in from a mile back on the brakes, and just having to go to every trick in the book right now just to see if anything works.
None of those tricks working just now. You know, I've been saying McNamara versus Ross, Ross versus McNamara. Wayne Walker got a very good result last week. Wayne Walker's leading the race here at the Red Bull Ring. He could be a mathematical shot come the final round once we calculate another drop if he's got a lot of wins in his back pocket. He's getting a little bit closer just now. Still 100 points back. Is going to require some divine intervention and that second drop to be very, very favourable to him. But he gives Jordan Ross and Sean McNamara something to think about. They can't shove each other off, for sure.
I'll watch out on this rejoin back onto circuit here, because that's John Gallant who's trying to stay out of the way of these three. And one gets clear, and we look at the championship standings live. Jordan Ross would maintain margin, but Wayne Walker would go to third. Jeff Thomas, who's fourth in the championship, having a horror show today in the rain, and that very nearly was McLean trying to thread the needle, and that has lost him all the time that he would have gained up there. So some big changes that are bringing themselves in with that top 10 overall.
Championship-wise, this is making everything so interesting. Just a little bit of rain at the Red Bull Ring. There's a little bit more coming. In the dry, they've really got to manage the throttle, the slip angle, and the tyre temperature in this car. And I'm seeing that become critical again right now as they run wet tyres on a drying track, trying to preserve these tyres until the rain comes again. In a minute or so's time, the final 10 laps of this race could be very damp and sodden, but it's not just yet. The wiper's really only going on board McLean to clear the spray that's landing on his windscreen, being picked up off the ground from the cars in front.
I wouldn't be surprised to see the heavens open as Jeff Thomas gets angry and sets a 37.3 on slicks. So slicks are the best tyre to be out there on at the moment. It has just been confirmed, but there's going to be a huge amount of rain. Look at that there from Jordan Ross. A heavy move to the inside, partly to scare, partly to get some water on the tyres.
That's the first time that the fastest lap of the race has been taken by someone on slick tyres, and right on cue, 10 seconds later, the rain starts to come down here at turn 3. It's coming down heavy and soon going to engulf the entire racetrack. Jeff Thomas, I think, has got one or two more laps. No, probably one more lap where those tyres feel good, and then the track is going to become very wet. The rain has gone from 0 to 100 just as quick as these race cars do.
And so when you have all of those tyres and thinking, right, I'm going to get quick laps, remember, if it rains, it's actually good for Jeff Thomas right now here, David, because who's going to take fastest lap bonus point away from him? Oh, he's not going to get it because he's not in the top 10.
Interesting, there's a look from Jeff Thomas's perspective at his bit of his wheel work and his furrowed brow and his focus. This part of the track's still dry, and he stays out, but he'll get to turn 1, there'll be rain falling on him, he'll get back to turn 3 and be like, gee, has it become very wet up here in just 90 seconds. We've stuff back there for Jeff Thomas as he races on 3 monitors. On his top monitor, does he have any good data about the rain? I just see the iRacing UI, I think.
He'll have a little look at a couple overlays that are there, but McNamara is side by side with Jordan Ross into turn 1, so we'll have to go to that in through the opening corner, and they now have a little bump between each other. Justin McLean sits on the rear as the rain now starts to fall. They will have to dance their way about, and now down the hill. Is there going to be a look for Jordan Ross, and who's going to be the best on the brakes here? McNamara seems to hold it steady. Jordan Ross trying to give enough room there, and McLean trying to stand it up to get himself a run off the exit. McNamara is going to hold for the moment, but they've still got round the corner to come. Turn 4, covered off line, give him a bucket in the back as he now tries to figure out where is the best place to brake. McLean gets a white line and slides.
Rear lockup. The minute he touched the line and the curb, he was trying to sneak his way around the outside of these two, but there is not 3 racing lines in these conditions just yet. McNamara is holding on. Jordan Ross seems like he's preserved his tyres for this moment, looking for a crossover where McNamara parks it in front of him. They go past the traffic. Justin McLean still super close behind. Rain falling over the whole racetrack right now. Lap times getting slower by about a second a lap per lap. And Wayne Walker's lead is almost 10 seconds as they battle over 2nd, 3rd and 4th behind him.
Well, they realise now that there are championship implications at hand. McNamara's got to do everything. John Gallen, again, a black flag.
Could be incident points. That's something to keep in mind. And that was Jeff Thomas missing the final corner. Those are the wrong tyres for this type of rain.
Now he's got to try and get back out and running again, and if he's there too long, there could be something to bridge this field back together. So Jeff Thomas here slowly gets himself back going. It's a long lap to get through, but look at Jordan Ross dancing through the traffic here. That was Wayne Sanderson he needed to get by. He's got a pivot angle to the inside. McNamara gives him room, but when you're tight and narrow at turn 3, watch this up the hill, because this is going to be where Justin McLean just picks up a monster run and says, you know what? You're stuck behind me now, but Jordan Ross, I don't think's having any of it. They're going to scrap it down again, and again it's a wiggle. Outside line works, holds the line brilliantly. McLean takes 3rd.
This is the way that the grip has dropped. Wayne Walker has gone from doing minute 38s to minute 42s, and at the end of this lap, it could be a minute 44. It could be even slower. Rain is falling heavy. Each lap, less grip than the one that came before. Each lap, they've got to be more cautious, but still push the limits. And Justin McLean is doing it perfectly right now. He puts himself in between McNamara and Ross, but he wants to put himself ahead of McNamara if he can. You see why McNamara doesn't want that. Right now, this is a point swing in his favour for the championship. See Walker across the line to go from a minute 42.1 down to a minute 41 again. So maybe he's found that the conditions aren't changing as quickly as he thought. He's been able to readjust and also just cool his tyres off a little bit more.
Pesci car should be able to swim quite well here today, as Kenneth Latta has Paul Young for company behind, trying to jump on through the order. Dan
McLean's blown turn 1.
Oh,
and he's got to slow down.
Good.
So from 3rd, Justin McLean has gone wide, gone way through the runoff, back behind Jordan Ross. Oh, it was okay while it lasted. Big rear lockup from Jordan Ross, big snap going into the braking zone. McLean still got that filled black flag, just manages to clear it right now. Battle on here, battle on between Travis Hunt, Ken Latta, Paul Young and Dan Hall. Battle on between David Nash, Gary Buckland and Christopher Burridge. Battle on between Stephen Kennedy and Track Limits. Track Limits have won that.
As Track Limits seem to always win in races of that sort of caliber. It's almost like the Emu War where the Emus win. But out there at the moment, I would say they are trying their best to hold on. These are late stage positions, so every place that you try and get is going to be huge in the context of a point here, a point there. It matters. All of this matters to try and pick up those points. You can see a very slow Darren Goosey a lap down, sees Christopher Burridge and Gary Buckland go through.
Yeah, they're still moving away off the racing line, but as they come back to it, you see that a dry line hardly exists anymore. Heaps of spray on what was once a dry line. That's Travis Hunt just ahead of Ken Latta and Paul Young. Hunt managing to put a second between himself and Latta and Young. Young's charge up the field into the top 10 has reached its sort of zenith at the moment. Stephen Kennedy comes in to serve his black flag. Jeff Thomas comes in for a set of wet tyres. This is my shocked face.
It's a huge moment going into turn number 9 and abandoning the ship there on the outside. Dan Hall sees that one and realises that could have been so much worse for Paul Young than what it actually was.
Yeah, Dan Hall, the quickest of this group of drivers, Hunt, Latta, Young and himself on that lap just completed. No surprises that Paul Young lost a little bit of time at that Larry moment late on in the lap. This closes up again. We said the final 10 laps of this race could be very tricky with the returning rain. Sean McNamara just losing a little bit of time. Jordan Ross gets closer again and seems to just sort of bide his time, look for his moment. Certainly, probably spent every single of the 40 laps so far just trying to make sure something is left of the tyres for the following lap, for the lap after that, and for the lap after that. Oh, he touches the curb. He gets a big rear lock up, and now he's going to lose lots of time.
He's got to be careful about that. Every time you touch the white lines on the outside, yes, it's racing paint, but it is so easy to have less grip than you do on the asphalt. So it's slippery out there. Don't make any mistakes, and that's why you see a driver like McLean run the middle there, not wanting to go over any of the grid lines out there to have any unnecessary wheel spin out there on circuit. These drivers are finding tiny mistakes left and right, left and right, left and right. They'll get a tiny reprieve, a couple minutes of the rain, but the final corners out there, so Rauk and then turns 9 and 10 still have rain falling on them at the moment, so they are looking at this. They'll get a little bit of ease into these early corners, but down on the east side of the circuit, that's where they're getting most of the rain.
Yeah, Spray's back, the standing water is back, and all of the sort of 30 minutes of track drying kind of gets reset by just a couple of minutes of rain. A little rear lock up there from Jordan Ross, but it helps him rotate into the right-hander and then drive off. McNamara took a little bit of time out of Wayne Walker the lap before, as Walker just playing this one very carefully with the time that he's got in his back pocket. Or has he managed his tyres more poorly? Is he less confident in this type of weather? Here he is, leading for the moment.
Damien Cairns has gone round at turn 1 and he's dropped himself out of the top 15 because of it. So a spin that really has cost him out there, down to 18th for Accelerate Sim Racing in the 88.
Andrew Rushworth and Brad Dogan just behind him. Here's what he's done. That yellow curb is not his friend.
I don't think it's been anyone's friend ever from the dawn of time, David.
It's not there to be a friend, is it? It's meant to, if you want friends, you stay within the track limits, I think.
That would be a good solution to making friends, as we watch then here one Mr. Wayne Walker, who is running this show right now with a 7-second lead out there overall and doing everything he needs to in order to put this together. And I do have to say, he's been faultless all race. He's done nothing wrong.
Trying very hard to not make a fault right now, and it means he's lost 3.5 tenths in Sector 1. Through Sector 2, everyone is doing that sort of wheel work to try to control the car. He does it as best he can, places the car about where you'd want. That rain coming down heavily, he can see that, we can see that. The wiper goes nuts. You can see the spray coming off everyone else as well. As you come up to lap cars, you gauge some of the track condition based on what they're doing, what's happening around them, and hey, off the road, getting out of the way of McNamara and Lawson McLean. Didn't catch who it was. Doesn't affect our top 5.
I think it was Darren Goosey who jumped off the road trying to stay out of trouble. So they are really trying to make sure that the finish is prioritised above anything else. You can see the tiny double take into the corner from Wayne Walker, just making sure that there is no real, I would say, qualms in the late stages of this race. Jordan Ross hasn't given up hope of getting by Sean McNamara. It stays at 4 tenths, and they've got a gap in front as well here to Brian Minogue. So they'll be looking to try and get by that. So now they come together. Championship leaders come together. McLean trying to get a drive off the exit now, and I'm sure McNamara will be on the radio for it.
They both ran so wide out of turn 1 that they've got slowdown flags, and Justin McLean will look like he'll try to go for second place. Looks like Jordan Ross's nose got to Sean McNamara's bumper. Both of them might have been locked up going into turn 1. Now McLean at the inside line, has a massive slide. He can't take second place. Sean McNamara can. McLean ends up in between them, and did McNamara move late? Did Jordan Ross lock up and hit him? Was it a bit of both? And that grip and that rain makes it so difficult to race that close.
McNamara's not called for anything out there from what I can tell, so for the moment it looks like Play On is there with 5 laps to go, or 4.5 now in this race. And look at the way the rain is coming down right now. It looks more like a lake out there than it does a race circuit.
Yeah, Austria not known for its salmon, but I reckon if we found a lake, we could do it, and that increases Wayne Walker's lead. He had 7 seconds. He only had 5 laps to go. He wasn't losing a whole second a lap, so he was looking safe with what he had. And then it all kicked off here again in second, third, and fourth. Jordan Ross trying to move forward like he knows he's got to do. Sean McNamara not wanting to give it up. Justin McLean looking for a podium. Logan Barnett's 9 seconds behind them. Mark Poynton another 11 seconds behind that. Again, just like qualifying, massive field spread in tricky conditions.
We expect a massive spread because drivers know that the rain is the toughest to race in. out there time and time again. Do not expect this to be easy. Do not expect this to be a race that you just get everything you want and then some. This is one that you have to earn your stripes. You earn those positions. You earn your placement as we look a little bit further down. This is Travis Hunt now having to deal with straight on. Straight on's got Justin McLean at turn 3. He's avoided everyone. He missed his braking zone, and that will condemn him to 4th place.
Ken Latta moves across on Paul Young, exiting the final corner as we saw Travis Hunt all sorts of sideways like many others have done, touching the wet curb, going into the final corner. Justin McLean is out of the battle for the podium spots. It's John McNamara 2nd, Jordan Ross 3rd. What did he do at turn 3?
Just missed it. He went straight on, and McNamara would have got the biggest shock of his life going through turn 3, suddenly seeing that there was a car on his inside that he wasn't expecting. So watch this. They go and hit the brakes, and McLean, he's just going to lock it up straight on, and then just an opening of the steering by McNamara. Very cleverly done to avoid contact there. So McLean finds himself down in 4th, and Jordan Ross now has a reprieve to go out there and attack.
Ken Latta for 8th place looks down the inside of Travis Hunt, who's been was struggling in the final corner. Now around the outside, almost gets shown to the wet side of the racetrack. They lean on each other a little bit more, and a massive aquaplane off the racing line. It's so wet, nearly looping it around. How did Travis Hunt hold on to that one? Ken Latta took the dry part of the racetrack, and he took 8th place.
Yeah, and he also did that as well, David, while alerting race control to something. So I think Kenneth here has done anything that he wants to and then some, moves himself up into 8th place with 3 laps to go. But McNamara now will start to sense that Jordan Ross wants his way through, and Ross now slowly lisking up to the rear, trying to figure out, right, where's the place I've got to go? I've already made contact once, I don't want to do it again.
And a subtle reprieve in the rain once again. Constantly changeable conditions across all 47 laps. Jordan Ross to the inside. You can brake pretty well there, but it puts you in such a tight line. He locks up. He hits Sean McNamara. They're both backwards at turn 4. Where's Justin McLean? He's going to sneak through for 2nd place. In the penultimate round, championship rivals collide.
Again, and again, it becomes a case of you've cost me a place there in this race by being overindulgent and over-exuberant on the brakes. Jordan Ross will look at it and see Logan Barnett now behind, but Sean McNamara, he will feel very hard done by what happened there. Jordan Ross has been far too eager, and this is what happens when you put championships on the line. Drivers make mistakes they otherwise wouldn't.
Well, happy time for Justin McLean. Change a whole lot in the points. McNamara remains ahead of Jordan Ross. Jordan Ross remains just ahead of Logan Barnett. Wayne Walker has 13 seconds of a race lead, starting 2 laps to go here at the Red Bull Ring.
It's calm needed, but Justin McLean now knows he's been given a huge opportunity now for that second. It looked like on 2 occasions he had lost the chance to fight for it, and now has it in his back pocket. We'll take another look down the hill, trying to get it slow. He was doing everything he could there with Jordan Ross as he was fighting a car that was trying to lock up the rear, as it often does. You can see he's trying to correct, and then bang, there's the hit into the corner. So that was really tough for Jordan Ross. He was fighting a car that was just trying to snap away from him at every single point.
Yeah, and from the onboard, it makes it look like he came from a little bit further back, like he really wasn't that far alongside, really threw it deep down the inside there, and suffered for it in the end. This is on board with him right now. Logan Barnett behind. I don't think going for a slide like that hurts your tyres as much in the wet as it would in the dry. If it was in the dry, you'd have massively overheated your tyres. You'd have no grip for the next 3 or 4 laps. In the wet, I think you can find a cool patch, cool those tyres off, and you'll get away with it a little bit sooner. Wayne Walker's about to see the white flag. 12 seconds clear of Justin McLean. He's still got a second to Sean McNamara. Jordan Ross here seems to have worked it out in 4th, ahead of Logan Barnett in 5th. Some big movers in the rest of the field there. So Paul Young's up into 9th after Travis Hunt's been off the road, plus 27 positions. Logan Barnett runs wide, gets it back onto the circuit. Dan Hall is plus 18. Hello Cesar, that's a good run from him into 15th plus 7 positions. He also features in our most positions gained alongside Andrew Rushworth and Travis Hunt.
Yeah, so those drivers will look around and think they've got a chance to do it, but this is where you think about what the championship means and what these races mean. You try and step yourself out of your comfort zone. You try and give yourself margin out there, and the margin for Justin McLean now is that those positions did matter, and that will jump him up to 4th ahead of Jeff Thomas. But this driver here, who's up in 3rd place in the championship, scoring big points here today, knowing that he needed to do everything possible to give himself an outside shot. Well, as the rain has fallen here and has proven that you needed to be a Rainmeister, no one at this stage could beat the Wainmeister.
Just a perfect race from Wayne Walker. He was on pole by nearly 0.4 of a second, a massive margin. In changeable conditions, he's picked the correct tyres at the right time. He ran a strategy that has not cost him too dearly at all, and he's looking for the checkered flag. There's a big kerfuffle here in the final corner that he has to navigate his way through. Matt Brunt and some other drivers colliding. Wayne Walker, one final challenge, and he clears that hurdle to win at the Red Bull Ring. McLean will come through in 2nd ahead of McNamara, you would think.
And that is the way it's going to go. So Justin McLean with a great drive, 3rd for Sean McNamara, and Jordan Ross only 4th, but he's a minimal points loss depending on what happens after the race with the way that the race all finishes. But it has been some wonderful drives over the course of this one towards the end, and it's still not quite done here because Travis Hunt still has to survive for that top 10 against Dan Hall, who started 29th on the grid.
You've got to tiptoe around some of those incident limits still on the final lap in some of these battles. Travis Hunt's looking for a top 10 that he's just going to hold on to. Dan Hall in 11th. I wonder if we can quickly look at Matt Brunk in the final corner there. There was a big car park. It led to 2 slow cars exiting the final corner that Wayne Walker appeared on and went, please, I don't need this. I'm in such a good spot. And there's Hellel Cesar, some of the last cars on the lead lap, just ahead of Vaughan McKee and Christian Smart, Andrew Rushworth and Brad Doble after early stops for both of them, lap 2 and lap 3.
Good scraps then towards the end, but a day
Latham
which
get a late
really...
black flag?
Oh, and if that is the case, that will be an added extra 40 to 55 seconds heading over the line. Let's take a look here with John Latham.
Oh, there we go. So he's hit the curb in the penultimate corner, rolled back towards the racing line. Oh, we could have stuck with that, couldn't we? No? All right. So he runs wide out of the penultimate corner, hits the curb. We've seen other drivers do this before. And then he ends in a precarious spot here, right at the apex. Gets drilled by Greg Sharp. Both of them are stopped. Brunt, I think, has to avoid it. Yes, Brunt makes contact with the rear of Latham, loops around, and just then Wayne Walker appears on the scene as well. So Brunt's looking at this. You can see the car. Ooh. I bet Brunt is worried about the track limits as well there. Doesn't go around the left-hand side to avoid. Gets a bit of a hit from behind as he comes to a stop on the racing line. Wayne Walker, a lucky boy again.
But you make your own luck in a series like this one here, David, and he's proven that today with the margin that he's won.
Absolutely, he has. He needed to be serene above the storm, and he was in that final stint as he saw 2nd, 3rd, 4th boxing on and unable to catch race winner Wayne Walker. Justin McLean eventually does manage to profit and grab that 2nd place as McNamara and Jordan Ross came together just a couple too many times. McNamara finishing 3rd, Jordan Ross finishing 4th. Producer floating the possibility that Jordan Ross might not be clear of some post-race points deductions, as can sometimes be applied by race control, but neither driver called it in. They were like, yeah, this is how we're racing. But it also requires race control to agree to that. Logan Barnett in 5th, Mark Poynton there in 6th, Dean Logsdale 7th, one of the movers of the race, +2. Ken Latta in 8th, a recovery drive after being around at turn 1 on the lap 1. Paul Young, 27 positions up to 9th. Travis Hunt, 7 positions up to hold on to that 10th, just ahead of Dan Hall in 11th, who gained 18 spots. Chad Lewis finished 12th. Michael Whiting in 13th, and then Sean Vandermeulen 14th. Halil Cesar in 15th. Lorne McKee in 16th. Christian Smart 17th. Damien Cairns 18th spot ahead of his teammate Andrew Rushworth. And Brad Doble completed the top 20.
We'll take a look over then at 21st, where Dean Flavell would drop back to with Scott Mackay, who got an early penalty, Christopher Burridge, and David Nash, the last finisher on the lead lap. A lap down for Matt Brunt, who got caught up on the last lap with Gary Buckland and Brian Minogue, a lap down too. They joined Wayne Sanderson, John Latham, and Stephen Kennedy in those finding not the greatest day here in the rain. Ray Smith, John Gallen and Greg Sharp would also join the one-lap crew, with second lap down for Jeff Thomas, who took the fastest lap of the race, so no point there. Darren Goosey would be 3 laps down, and then your only retiree of the race, Reese DeGuy.
Yes, and that looks short of the 75% race distance to be a classified finisher if I'm doing these sums in my head correctly. It looks like everyone else will have got it. Let's get to our podium then, because boy, are there going to be some stories to be told. Sean McNamara finished 3rd. We've got him on the line. How many big, deep breaths post the checkered flag to get your heart rate back down?
If I'm on camera, cheers. Oh, hang on, we're getting there. There was a few. I feel like I was dodging Mustang darts for a while there. Could be a new game. Might be the parody thing. Maybe they're just a bit jealous of the straight line of the Camaro. But yeah, no, it was good fun. It was good fun regardless. Shane Jordan and I had contact at the end. We had a really cool battle a few laps before that. But yeah, no, it is what it is. It's just wet weather, hard racing, and it was good.
Review complete. Sean McNamara, you're on screen now. Please signal cheers.
Okay. Cheers to the Mustangs. Really good night. It was fun. It's nice to see the rain for Vets, and I'm stoked for Justin. Getting a P2 there, and Logan, P5, and Logger in P7, and Sean just faded a bit in the wet. But really good night for the team, and it was good fun. We just got nothing for Wayne at the moment, so we're going to figure that one out.
It seems like every time we go to a new track or changeable conditions, Wayne Walker is at his best. He's like the first to figure out the rain, the first to figure out Portland, and then you guys, chip away at it. Your ceiling might be higher, but Wayne Walker is a bit of a ringer in everything, is what I reckon.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a superstar little driver. He's and it is, you'd love to see how many hours he does a week, whether it's a lot, whether it's bugger all, I don't know. But he just seems to have a bit of a natural ability to drive in the sim. So, I know Jordan and myself, we don't get a lot of time on. So, towards the end of the race is where you start to feel good and you start to, find a bit of pace. But, Wayne's on from lap 1, and he seems to, I don't know, I don't know if he's saving a lot of fuel or what, but even after the pit stops, he just seems to open it up a little bit by little bit. So, he's doing a mega job. I think he was, 40 or 50 points behind on the championship table, but with another win under his belt, and we've got a couple of tracks that suit him coming up. So I think it could be a tight one at the top between the three of us.
So coming towards the tail end of the championship, do you think you're going to be putting in lots of laps of practice or putting in lots of boxing practice?
I'll change the back of my car. I might turn up on a Mustang next week. No. Look, I'll bolt some laps in. It's not very often, the past few years in vets, I haven't really been able to do a full season. So it's nice to actually get a full season under my belt so far, and apart from last week, and be in a good, strong championship position. So, yeah, I'll give it a red hot crack over the next couple of weeks and turn as many laps as I can. And, yeah, it's been good helping the vets guys out with some videos and stuff as well. So that kind of motivates you a bit to get in and teach yourself some tricks. But yeah, no, definitely want to have a red hot crack at it and take that number 1 off Jordan. So yeah, we'll have a proper crack at it.
Awesome, entertaining stuff the whole way throughout, and well done.
Cheers, appreciate it, guys, and thank you to everyone, and thank you to you guys for everything you're doing, and a big weekend coming up for ASRG with Bathurst 1000 as well. So have a good night, folks.
Cheers. Jake will move to second on the podium because it looks like Justin McLean is going to join us.
Justin, it looked like there with about 5 laps to go that it was all pretty much over and done with for you, that you'd overshot the corner from third and then found yourself down in fourth, mired back by a few seconds, but give it a couple laps and suddenly you're there in second place. Just talk us through the highs and lows of that one.
Oh, mate. First off, good race to the podium. Good race to Jordan, everyone. Yeah, it was just wild. I was really trying my hardest not to sort of affect the championship, contact with Jordan or Sean or anyone. So yeah, as soon as I sort of thought I was going to make contact with Sean, I just opened it back up and put the boot back into it. So, at least I wouldn't get one of them. And it actually worked out all right for me. I got it going again pretty quick, and the boys had a bit of a moment. I was able to catch back up and Bradbury it.
Yeah, that's the best way of getting a second place out there for you. But just talk about the interchanging conditions, because it looked like it was a wet start. It was going to get drier, and then, it was a bit of an a bit of an R, and then the heavens opened.
Yeah, it was pretty tricky to sort of judge. We were sort of talking amongst ourselves, it was pretty sure it's going to be a wet start, and it started off looking that way, and then that dry line came in really quick and really solid, and the talk sort of sprung to, do we start putting slicks on? And I think someone did and went pretty quick, and yeah, unfortunately sort of just before anyone had committed that it started raining again, so we all just stuck with the wets. And I mean, in the first pit stop I didn't change tyres, I just kept my warm wets on, and then on the second stop, making the most of that dry line, I put a fresh set of wets on and got a bit of temp in them. I was actually pretty fast in that sort of stint, which was good.
Got the speed, how important it was late on in the season to move and pick up what you needed. You gained 2 spots, and critically you jumped up to 4th in the championship with a move like that today. So how do you look at this, saying, yeah, I'm getting some good form and a little bit of fortune heading over to the season finale?
Just sort of taking it as it comes. I guess I can be sort of pretty aggressive sometimes, so just tried to dial it back a bit this season and take advantage of sort of coming into a rhythm and then building on that and just letting the finishes come from that. And everyone sort of says it, you let it come to you, and it's true. So that's really what I've done. I still have the odd shot out here or there, but I feel like my results in the last few weeks have been really reflective of how I'm going about my racing this season.
Well, we will wish you the best of luck as far as the championship finale is concerned. Justin McLean with a great day today, moving through and picking up that second place finish late on. David, I believe you've taken the walk down the virtual paddock, and I believe you've run into someone.
Yes, I'm going to get Wayne Walker. Now, we heard Sean McNamara talking about potentially moving from a Camaro to a Mustang. I don't think that Justin McLean was going to move away from a Mustang. Wayne Walker's put a Mustang on the pole position and in the race win. From a really tough opening couple of rounds, Wayne, you must be flying on cloud 9, and that cloud 9 has dropped a bit of rain.
Yeah, I've picked up a bit at the end of the season, but I was actually hoping tonight was going to be wet, because they said, it was like random weather, might be rain, might not be. And yeah, I was praying for it, because I really don't like this track in the rain, in the dry.
Well, it paid off really well for you. We don't look with quite the same magnifying glass on qualifying. What do you think gave you such a strong performance in qualifying compared to the others?
I'm not actually sure. I just tried not to overdrive the car because it was the track was a little bit wet in spots, and I think we're all on dries. So yeah, there was a couple of corners where you had to really be easy going into it, otherwise the car would just understeer. So yeah, I must have just got all those corners right and put it on pole, which I wasn't really expecting, but yeah, it was good to start off the front with with the rain and all the spray.
Now, counting one drop round has you moving up to third in the championship. When we go to count 2 drop rounds, your feast and famine season should look a little bit more feast.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I had 25 penalty points at Watkins Glen, so I think that's gonna hurt me. I think I'll, like, even now with, like, after what have I had, 3 wins, I think I'll still be behind Sean, I think, in third.
It'll be very, very interesting to watch when we go to the Saxon Ring. Again, another new track, places where you tend to shine, like when we go to Mexico or Portland, or plenty of other things coming up that iRacing are going to scan that could be a strength for you.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that next week. I've played it on MotoGP, I think it is. So I know the track, just not in a supercar.
And across 200Ks today, with starting in the wet, drying up, rain coming back, sprinkle of rain in between, how close were you at either of your stops from shoving the wet tyres off and trying slicks?
Yeah, the first stop, I didn't think it was dry enough to put slicks on, but definitely the second stop, I was only a couple of laps out from my pit stop, and the track was, there was a nice dry line, and then it started to rain again. I'm like, no, leaving the wets on. So yeah, if it had stayed dry for another lap or two, I probably would have put dries on.
Well, it's never completely predictable. It's those small little judgments that make it so interesting. You picked right, and then were consistent enough and mistake-free enough to be our winner at the Red Bull Ring. Well done, and anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, just everyone who helps run the league, all of Race Control, podium finish as well. Like Justin had a really good race, and Sean in third. Even Jordan as well. He was right there with them. All the other competitors as well. Without them, it's not possible, and it's good close racing. My team, Accelerate Sim Racing, and all those guys, they're good bunch of guys, and they all sort of help out as well. Our sponsors, Abbey Timber, Primal Wheels, Box and Lock Narang, and Modern Deck. I think did I mention you guys for the broadcast?
You often do, so. And we don't deserve it. So
no, you do an amazing job. So yeah, thank yous as well.
You always say we've done an amazing job before you've listened to what we've said about you, and I admire that kind of optimism from all of our drivers, and we wish you the best of luck at the final round.
Okay, thank you.
And I didn't say anything bad about him, but he doesn't know that yet. This is the provisional championship points post that race, minus potential penalties or some of the bonuses, but it shows what kind of a season we're having, Jake.
Yeah, it's one where it's always going to be close. Every single championship race is going to matter. Every point is going to be hard fought for. But there are some really good drivers who are up there, who are scoring the points, who are trying to prove that they've got everything of what it takes. And so as you're looking to set it up, I would look around at that and say, yeah, we're in for a real treat here at this season finale at the Saxon Ring. Also,
only one drop round there. we've got to decide on a driver of the day, Jake Sperry. Now, I know you had some strong thoughts. Can I put forward... Hellel Caesar?
You can. I'm going to say that Dan Hall should be the driver of the day.
Okay. All right. So then we'll hear from our producer who's going to back in. All right. Dan Hall will be our driver of the day. Championship standings so tight there, but for M1 used cars and in support of Bin the Blade for Balin Foundation, Dan Hall is again a driver of the day for Evolution Racing Team. Qualified lowly, but did qualify and then made 18 spots with a very early stop strategy.
It's the way it works out, and so you're looking to try and pick up those points. You're looking to try and do anything you can to go and gain those points. And so if you're looking at someone who doesn't necessarily get the best out there and is able to climb up the order, sometimes you have to do the outside the box strategy to pay off, and it does there.
Yeah, and looky this. So once we factor in 2 drop rounds heading into the final round of the season, which typically you cannot drop, so it locks us in as racing from these positions. Jordan Ross's championship lead is somewhat dwindled. Wayne Walker jumps into second ahead of Sean McNamara by just 5 points, and it could be that a win is what it takes. It might be what Jordan Ross needs. If Sean McNamara wins, then he needs Ross and Walker to not pick up as many bonus points and to certainly sit outside of the top 5 even potentially. But it's a clear 3-way fight heading to the Saxon Ring next time. You'll see it live here on SimSpeed TV, and we can't wait. Thank you so much for joining me from the Red Bull Ring, Jake.
Not a problem. It's supposed to be here, and I'm sure that finale is going to be absolutely sensational watching in 7 days' time.
And our producer, Daniel Yeaman, on the graphics, the replays, and everything from a constantly unpredictable and evolving Red Bull Ring. With rain on the circuit, Wayne Walker takes a win, leaps himself provisionally to second in the championship with 1 round left to run. Easy for me to say. Thank you to RaceKraft Simulations, Logitech G, Nova Sim Sports, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, Player One Sim Gear, LGC Images, M1 Used Cars, and SudSpeed, their continued support of the V8 Vets Championship.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.